Examples of electrostatic boundary conditions. Example number 1. Here's the stated problem, and then we'll draw it and solve it. But let me read this to you. Let there be an interface between two semi-infinite media in the xy plane. So that means we have two materials that meet at the xy plane, but they extend off to infinity in all directions, except of course at that plane where one medium transitions to the other. So that's what semi-infinite means. The dielectric constant for the first medium is 2.0, and the dielectric constant for the second medium is 4.4. So we have two mediums, the top one's 2, the bottom one's 4.4. Here's what we need to do. Number 1, given that the electric flux density in medium 1 is, and then I have the electric flux density D1, calculate the electric flux density in medium 2, D2. Number 2, calculate the angle D1 makes with the interface. Number 3, using the law of refraction, calculate the angle D2 makes with the interface. For these types of problems, I always like to start by visualizing the problem. Maybe a little bit more challenging here because it's in 3 dimensions, but we can see we have a top medium with permittivity epsilon 1 that was given to be 2.0, and the bottom medium epsilon 2 given to be 4.4, and we've drawn a right-handed coordinate system, so x cross y is in the z direction. So start by plotting D1 because that's what was given here, and the units is in coulombs per meter squared. So we see that D is off in some direction. Next, we will divide D1 into tangential and normal components, or I should say separate it, decompose it into tangential and normal components because we have different boundary conditions for the tangential and normal components. So we'll sort of solve these separately. But notice we've also plotted the normal and tangential components. So let's apply the boundary condition for the normal components. So for the electric flux, the normal component is continuous across the interface. So we can already write D2 normal component. It's the exact same thing as in the first medium. So that's easy. We know the normal component of D2. Now let's solve the boundary condition for the tangential components. Now this boundary condition involves the permittivity because the tangential component of electric flux is not continuous across the interface, but this ratio of the tangential component divided by permittivity is. So we can solve this for the tangential component of D2 because that's what is not known. Now we can plug in all the numbers that we have. Our epsilon 2 is 4.4, our epsilon 1 is 2.0, and we can put in the tangential component of D1. When we do the math, we end up with the tangential component for D2, and we've also plotted it over here in our figure. And notice D2 and D1 are in the same direction, but they have different magnitudes. And that's because the tangential component of the electric flux is not continuous across the interface. They're scaled by the permittivities. Well, we've calculated both the normal and tangential components of D2, so we simply add those together, we combine them to get overall D2, which we've also plotted in our figure over here. So we have our expressions for the tangential and normal component, and we add them together. We have our final expression for D2, and we draw a nice box around it to indicate that's the final answer. Well, we have more to do. What's the angle theta 1 of D1? Well, how do we do this? Well, remember the property of dot products. A dot B is the magnitude of A times the magnitude of B times the cosine of the angle between those two vectors. Well, we only have one vector here, right? Well, actually, that's not true. We have other vectors. We have this z direction. We can use a unit vector in the z direction. Therefore, the angle between that z direction and D1 has to be theta 1. So we can use this equation if we let A be the D1, the B be a unit vector in the z direction, and of course our angle theta AB is actually theta 1. That lets us rewrite that dot product. And we end up here. So essentially, we need to solve this for cosine of theta 1. So let's continue. Here's where we were from the previous slide. The dot product on the left, D1, full 3D vector, but it's a dot product with just a unit vector in the z direction. That is just the z component of D. Then on the right, we have the magnitude of a unit vector. Well, the magnitude of a unit vector is just 1, so that drops from the equation. So we have a simpler equation that we can solve for theta 1. So that's our next step. Now we can plug in our numbers. We have a 1.5 for the z component of D. Notice I've dropped the units, and that's because the units in the numerator and denominator would cancel. I could have still written them, but maybe I got a little lazy. And then the bottom is the magnitude of D1. And if we run the math, that angle theta 1 is 55.9 degrees. Now, what about angle theta 2? That's the angle of D2 inside medium 2. We actually could go through this same procedure. However, there's an easier way. Because we have the angle of D1, we can use that law of refraction. So that's exactly what we'll do. We can solve that for theta 2 because that's what we're trying to get. Now we can plug in our numbers. So the epsilon 2 is 4.4, epsilon 1 is 2.0. We just calculated this angle theta 1, it's 55.9 degrees. And if we do the math, the angle that the field D2 makes with respect to the surface normal is 72.9 degrees.